Hey y'all, it's me again. So this is gonna be the part 2 for the Tedium in Blue, chapter 4 through 6. I've lost counting. Wait, I don't know. Blah. I've lost too many brain cells over the. I give up on speaking entirely. Enjoy video, whatever. I need help. Chapter 4. Your keys fumbled against the lock to your apartment, rushing home once the officer escorted you away from the beach. Right now, your heart and mind were racing as you tossed off your shoes and dropped your backpack on the couch before grabbing up your laptop. Normally, a respite from the anxiety and outside stresses the world often presented, your apartment was simply decorated, but inviting. The media center standing against the off-white wall next to the TV held dusty books, unplayed video games, and movies worn out from overuse. However, the calm of your home was invaded by racing thoughts and questioning possibilities. You were still trying to comprehend the very real prospect that you've encountered something only told in children's stories. The voice in the back of your head told you he was just a trick of the ocean, an illusion created by the tug of your own want for some kind of companionship. He couldn't be real, but the buzz of electric static from his touch still lingered in your skin. The curious stare of red eyes built from rubies made your pulse race. You weren't delusional or crazy, but things like this never happened to you. A life of routine and monotony, day in and day out. Get up, go to work, unwind at the beach, go home, rinse, and repeat. But maybe the occasional hiccup along the way, but otherwise you knew where you were going and why at any given moment. But something like this? Unexplained adventure? A chance meeting of a lifetime? Maybe you'd wake up tomorrow realizing this was all a bizarre lucid dream. But until then, you had work to do. You spent the next several hours researching any and all variations of mermaid and merman and merpeople to see if any researched and documented sightings existed, and every single page turned up dry. Pages filled with Bigfoot sightings, the Loch Ness Monster, devils, spirits, and all the other manner of mythical creatures told only in legends popped up in the search engine, leading to blogs written by conspiracy theorists and people with no credibility whatsoever. Doctored photos and false sightings, a string of hopeless leads, ultimately made you slam your laptop shut in frustration, a heavy sigh leaving your lips. You remembered as a child watching cartoons with mermaids depicting hidden civilizations of unknowns lurking at the depths no human could reach. Always beautiful. The mermaids were often adorned in seashells and starfish that looked gathered up from a tourist trap. Fish and other creatures of the ocean accompanied the merpeople on adventures. Through the curiosity of human interaction pulled the simple plot line together as two strangers from different worlds meet, enamored by secrets of the other. I can't speak. Now your life was playing like a child's bedtime story. You were honestly hoping for some adventure to fall in your lap, something to break the in and out of familiarity, but this was far from what you had in mind. God, I seriously cannot be the only person in the world who's seen a mer-person, right? The soft patter of feet made your head turn, the eyes of your sleepy cat staring at you expectantly. I'm guessing you want dinner, huh? All right, princess. She meowed as if in response as you set your computer aside to fix yourself some leftovers and opened a fresh can of food for your only other companion in the apartment. You had an overwhelming urge to tell anyone about your experience, but you knew you couldn't. No one would believe you without pictures or videos. Besides, you've seen too many sci-fi movies and horror stories of captured creatures sent off for torture and experiments. If any news outlet got wind that there were mer people, they sent out dive teams to search for them, and you couldn't let that happen. The human nature for curiosity and knowledge led to too many times to the ultimate demise of many species. Even the idea of seeing the merman in pain on a cold slab, scientists poking and prodding at him, like, no, just entertaining the thought made your stomach churn. But what about the other possibility? You're familiar enough with the folklore of water spirits and shapeshifters, transforming into someone beautiful and enticing, only for them to drag their victim underwater and never to be seen again. However, the merman you encountered had plenty of opportunities to grab you by the foot or hand, yanking you off the pier and into the cold depths below, but he didn't, though. He only ate your food and spat water in your face. It seemed more like innocent curiosity and boredom that drove him to play tricks on you, the echo of his laugh still ringing in your ears. You shook your head, willing away the seductive pull of his stare embedded in your memory. Eventually, you made your way into bed, the ceiling fan circulating the cool air of the room, a hum in the stillness. Eyes heavy with sleep adjusted to the darkness of your bedroom, the familiar weight of your cat purring at your feet above the sheets. Familiar and mundane. Routine, unextraordinary, only darkness as you drifted off to sleep. You rarely dreamed, but this night proved abnormal even when safely tucked in bed. The strong scent of salt and fish filled your nose, vision clouded and murky. Something surrounded you, captured in a cold embrace and refused to yield. Water. You were underwater, an open expanse of blue. Finally, your vision returned, though it made you feel uneasy. Nothing below or above you, but the solid immensity of nothingness, a crushing heartache of alienation. I don't know that word either. Please don't attack me. Filling your lungs as you drowned under its weight, sinking down, down, down. The echo in your ears of loneliness made you cry out, but no sound escaped through the density of the blue. Your hands clawed at the vacuum, the bubbles of movement floating opposite your descent into the unknown. Unexpectedly, something grabbed your wrist, your pulse alive and rhythmic against the grip. The touch was enticing and comforting, but intangible, but your eyes were too clouded with the possibility of false hope for you to see what it was. Suddenly, your eyes filled up with glisten of rubies, and you woke up. A gasp issued from your dry throat, the heave of your chest wrapped in the constraint of sweat-drenched sheets. The jolt and movement made your cat flit from the bed. Feeling both the cold stick of sweat and the warmth of fever, you hopped from bed and begrudgingly made your way into the bathroom to wash your face. You sighed, looking into the mirror at your tired eyes as they adjusted to the harsh fluorescent light. It was just a dream. You were fine, but you didn't really feel like going back to sleep despite the late hour and the call of work and morning. Walking into the kitchen, you made your favorite kind of tea. The smell often calmed you, the throbbing of blood flow warm and quick under your skin. The ocean was normally a comfort, the smells and sounds that flooded across your senses. The vastness wide and beautiful in comparison to your own life, transcended a terrarium of monotony. I think I'm pronouncing that right? I don't know. Please don't bully me. Okay, anyways, even if the merman on your mind did turn out to be just a dream, it didn't matter. The idea that something mysterious was out there was exhilarating, and for once, you were excited for the possibility of an adventure on the horizon of the sea, a speck of red amongst the blue. Chapter 5. Gentle sunlight streamed in through the thin curtains of the living room as your phone buzzed loudly against the wooden side table. You woke with a snort, a dried sliver of drool crusty from your chin. Falling asleep on the couch was not a good idea, but the tea from last night calmed you down enough to drift back to sleep against the old stained cushions. You didn't dream again. The thoughts of the previous day flitted across your vision as you readied yourself for work. However, until you could make it back out to the ocean this afternoon, the familiarity and responsibility of routine called out to you. Bills needed to be paid after all. As you rode the train to work, flecks of red, gold, and blue captured your attention like a moth to the flame. A red shirt, gold earrings, deep blue backpack. The colors were jarring as you recalled images of your bizarre dream, trapped in an endless expanse of ocean, helpless against the current of gravity as it pulled you down. The darkness surrounding you splintered against an invasion of red. Work was dull and typical. It wasn't your dream job by any means, but the paycheck was decent enough for you to scrimp and save to put down a deposit on a nicer place at some point in the future. A voice behind you interrupted your train of thought, mind wandering to the salty familiarity of the ocean coupled with possible hidden treasures in form of merpeople. Hey, you doing all right? Seem kind of out of it today. It was one of your co-workers. The two of you weren't exactly friends, but the closeness of your desks had you communicating just because of proximity. Not that they were rude or anything, but sometimes they were nosy. The boredom and monotony of work giving them an excuse for a minute of chatter. You looked up from your paperwork, plastering on an inviting smile. Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Just sort of out of it today. You know, we all have those days. Indeed, but some were tougher to get through than others, but wasn't that the true of most jobs? Was anyone truly happy day in and day out for eternity doing the same thing? If so, you've never met them. Laughing in a way that seemed suspiciously fake, your coworker nodded in response. Ain't that right? They continued to pepper you with distracting conversation until your boss passed by, eyes glancing quickly over them, coughing as they returned to their desk with a huff. The rest of the day was far more silent. Before heading back to the beach, you grabbed the bus back home, wanting to change into more comfortable clothes. After changing, you passed by the mirror near the front door, giving yourself a once-over. You spent an extra 5 minutes fixing your hair a bit before catching yourself, cheeks heating up at the idea of trying to make yourself slightly more presentable for what was probably an average routine, an unextraordinary evening out on the pier. Just another day, right? The beach was closer to your apartment in comparison to work, so you normally walk straight there from your home. Passing by the food vendor, you grabbed 2 snacks this time, taking one in each hand before heading over to the pier. It was a bit earlier in the day, the sun resting just above the cross-section of the ocean and sky, a reflection of glitter sprinkled on the shifting water. Taking off your shoes, your feet dangled once more over the edge of the pier, eyes scanning and ears listening for any sign of movement against the water. An unexpected splash, something to signal the presence of something or someone close by. One of the hashimakis sat in a cardboard bowl as you held the other one to your mouth. The smell of grilled octopus and cabbage mixing with the salty scent of fresh seawater and damp wood. Turning around, your eyes scanning behind you and along the beach for anyone close by. Someone who might disturb any visitors who might not want to be seen otherwise. Luckily, it was the middle of the week. The weekends often drew in loud families and adventurous swimmers, leaving the remaining days fairly deserted. A small splash below you caught your attention, drawing your eyes down over the side of the pier into the murky water. The glare of red eyes, unnerved by the water, mirrored your own. Your throat went dry as you struggled to swallow the last bite of your food and last... Okay, let me restart that sentence. Your throat went dry as you struggled to swallow the bite of food in your mouth. He was just as strikingly beautiful as you remembered. Holy crap, so I wasn't dreaming. You're real, and I'm not a crazy person. His pale blonde hair turned light teal under the water as he lifted up slightly to look at you. Eyes of fire shifted quickly, however, to the food in your hand, growing white as he seemed to recognize the snack you fed him the previous day. Oh, you hungry? Well, you're just in luck because I got an extra one just in case. No sniffing the air, he came closer, one cool webbed hand lifting out of the water, close down on your bare foot, making you jump. You bit the inside of your cheek as his fingers shifted on your skin. You were ticklish on your feet and silently hoped that he didn't know what tickling was. Grabbing the other snack, you leaned down and held it out to him, nodding at him with a smile that it was safe to take. Never letting go of your foot, he snatched it with his other hand before sniffing at it to confirm that it was indeed the same as the previous day before, shoving the whole thing in his mouth again, fangs glittering under his lips. He didn't eat like a human, that was for sure, chewing with his mouth open, jaw moving rapidly, food flying out of his mouth that he quickly picked up from the water. He didn't leave a single speck to waste. You shifted as his other hand moved against your foot, apparently enamored by your toes, though his attention was elsewhere. Finally, you laughed, covering your mouth quickly, swallowing the remainder of his food. Slowly, he looked, his eyes slitted up to you. Oh, I'm not laughing at you, though how you eat is kind of ridiculous. Oh, crap. Toes curled around his fingers by reflex, the clean hashimaki stick jutting out of his mouth as he looked from your flushed face down to your feet and back again. His other hand now free, both sets of webbed fingers massaged into the skin of your feet experimentally. Red eyes never left your face. On reflex, you tried to bring your other leg up to protect yourself from the onslaught of tickling, but he was quick. He grabbed you by the ankle, one foot now in each hand. Your eyes were watering from trying to hold back your laughter, struggling to free yourself from his grip. But the muscles in his arms proved useful for something other than just propelling himself effortlessly through the water. His fingers drifted over your skin, the slight tug of textured skin leaving behind a pathway of memory as he grazed over your bones, muscles, tissue. A finger found its way between a couple of toes, wiggling in the space. Your muscles reactionary? I don't know that word. As they curled around him like an embrace. He smirked at the look on your face, realizing what he was doing could provide some interesting entertainment. God, that smirk suited him well too. No more, please. Shaking your head from side to side, you gasped as you felt one clawed hand drift up past your foot to your ankle. His touch was light but firm, a thumb caressing over the joint. A voice in the back of your head whispered, "What the heck? Since when has touching your feet feel so intimidated? I don't know that word either. Please don't bully me." Before this got out of hand, you managed to yank one of your feet back onto the pier, the merman below you gaping at the sudden denial of your foot before his face contorted into a growl that might have looked so intimidating if you weren't coming down from the high of laughter. Sorry. You can't tickle me all day. You conceded, wiping the tears from your eyes. Suddenly, his touch disappeared, leaving a jarring emptiness in your gut. Looking back down, the merman stared at you, an expression of annoyance on his face, before swiftly disappearing with a small splash under the shift of water. Wait, you can... come on. Don't be so greedy. Let me have 1 foot. That's it. Only silence echoed back. The movement was so fast that you nearly fell back onto the pier from shock as the merman propelled himself out of the water like a rocket, strong arms catching himself on the edge of the wood between your knees. His mouth now nonchalantly to drop the clean hashimaki stick down onto the pier, reaffirming your idea that he disliked human waste in the waters that he called home. The close proximity of your faces, now only about a foot apart, made you stammer out a nervous laugh. Red and gold scales on his shoulders and arms glistened spectacularly against the sunset far in the distance, giving him a radiant halo of splendor. Now you saw the subtle gills on the sides of his neck, vibrating slightly as his chest moved with the rhythm of his breathing. Tilting his head to the side, he stared at you, eyes narrowed and brows furrowed. A webbed hand grazed across your thigh like an unexpected drop of rain. You knew your face was nearly the same shade as his eyes at this point. You swallowed hard, wondering what could possibly be passing through his head to end up in this position, until the hand holding your own hashimaki suddenly felt empty. His distraction proved effective, it seemed. The merman stuffed your own snack into his mouth with a smirk, knowing his little game worked. You blinked at the realization that he was indeed intelligent and cunning, not just handsome with a face and a fishtail. "What? You little crap!" and you gritted out. He chuckled at your obvious annoyance as he licked the last bits of cabbage from his lips before taking the clean stick and flicking it into your forehead. "You're lucky you're cute, or else I'll shove you right off this pier." Though he was done eating your stolen snack, he didn't move from his spot. Arms now refolded atop one another, suspended above the open expanse of sea. Maybe this wasn't an opportunity to see if he could do something other than just laugh at your agitation. He could laugh, though. He had some sort of vocal cords, right? Can you talk? You asked slowly, his ruby eyes watching the movement of your lips. No vocal response back. Opening your mouth, a light came forth as you pointed from your own mouth to his, careful not to get too close to his fangs. You repeated the gesture, trying to see if he might mimic whatever you did, in hopes of finding some attempt to communicate. Looking at you suspiciously, he opened his mouth to issue a curt, well, it was something at least, so you can sort of talk. We can just practice for a bit, okay? You noted with a nod. The merman nodded back. Okay. Wait. Okay. Your eye twitched at the mimed response, his voice like dark velvet in your ears from a single word. You wondered if he could actually understand what you were saying, but just couldn't respond properly. This was definitely something to research in the future. You spoke in short, simple sentences to get the merman, using gestures to help certain ideas across. Sometimes he picked a single word to speak back to you, voice low and enticing. Other times he remained silent, merely staring at you with eyes that you only suspected saw more than they let on. On more than one occasion, he snickered at your exaggerated movements, making you consider he thought this whole situation yet another game of entertainment at your expense. The darkness of the night eventually passed over the pier, the sun dipping down below, a blanket of dark blue and green waves at an unreachable horizon. You looked back over your shoulder, eyes scanning for the officer that disturbed you the previous day. So far, you were still alone. Turning back to the merman in front of you, his head now resting against his forearms, still nestled between your knees on the edge of the pier, you sighed. Today was an affirmation that you weren't dreaming, or delusional, or just imagining something to curb the lonely boredom of everyday turmoil. He was real, and that made you smile. Maybe it was a trick of the low light, but it almost looked like he smiled back. You yawned, his eyes watching your mouth open, observing that your teeth were different from his own. I should go home, you conceded, tossing a thumb back over your shoulder, pointing towards human civilization. You should go too, before someone else notices you're here. I'll be back tomorrow though, okay? He seemed to understand that you were leaving as you shifted your feet up from the pier, a ball of your foot grazing the side of his tail accidentally. Shifting away from the touch, he growled at you. Apparently him touching your legs was fine, but touching his tail was off limits. Well, that's a double standard, but maybe your tail is more sensitive than my legs. The touch didn't linger long enough for you to really familiarize yourself with the texture, just a brief taste of moisture on your foot. Despite your growing curiosity on what his fishtail felt like, you pulled your feet all the way up, careful not to touch him again, wanting to respect his boundaries, and hopefully not to scare him off as he assessed you as a possible threat. You stood up, his eyes following you carefully as you wiped off the back of your thighs from any possible splinters and debris. His annoyed expression faltered as you crouched back down, sad that the day was over, but heart beating excitedly for what future evenings might hold. You held out your hand, hoping he understood as it sort of a peace offering, a sign that you acknowledged him and would return another day. Slowly, a webbed hand retreated from under his chin, placing his palm gently in your own, claws grazing at your skin like stiff feathers. You nodded, and he nodded in return before you pulled your hand away. Tomorrow, okay? Okay, the merman replied, low and quiet in the darkness of the pier. You weren't sure if he understood, or was merely copying your words. Standing up once more and gathering up your bag and the 2 discarded hashimaki sticks, you chanced over one last look at the merman, observant eyes watching you. You waved goodbye, struggling to turn back around and head home. The pull of the ocean and irises of crimson weighing down your feet, movements of sluggish and enthused as you... enthused? I think that's the word. Oh no, I'm stupid. As you forced yourself forward, a hand waved back in the shadows. Chapter 6. The days following the second meeting with the mysterious merman proved to be interesting, to say the least. He soaked up information like a sponge. It seemed like he was not only mimicking your words back to you, but actually understood the context behind certain words and phrases. Holding a proper conversation was still a faraway possibility, but he still understood the meaning of yes, no, hello, and goodbye after only a few hours. You never thought yourself as any sort of teacher, but helping an adult. Well, you assumed he was an adult. His physique certainly didn't seem like that of a child. He wasn't so bad. The smug look on his face when you praised him for getting something right was worth the effort. You also found out that he refused to eat anything unless it smelled marginally of fish, spitting out the food and turning up his nose at whatever he found unsatisfactory. He was not dissimilar to a curious cat who only ate specific things under the right circumstances. The behavior was almost cute, until he tossed a half-eaten snack in your face again, which at which point you put your foot down on those shenanigans. Groaning as you wiped away stray grains of rice from your face, you decided to see how good his comprehension skills were at this point. Nope, not today. You want to be rude? I'll just leave. The look of amusement on the merman's face as he leaned against the edge of the pier disappeared as you promptly stood up and went to gather up your things several hours earlier than you usually did. Hey, he exclaimed, reaching forward in an attempt to grab your ankle before you pulled it away. Nope, you protested, bending down to shove a stern finger in his face, red eyes nearly crossing to look at it properly. If you don't like something, that's fine, but you can't keep throwing crap in my face. I'm aware that you know what nice is when we went over it yesterday, and you had no problems then. You've got to be nice or I'm leaving, you said, emphasizing the word. He growled and promptly tried to bite your finger, but you retreated it just in time. Well, that's it. Have a good night, Mr. Merman. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow. Turning your heel, you headed down the pier, ignoring his whines and angry yelling before hearing a distinct splash. Pausing in your walk, you turned around, and sure enough, the merman was no longer on the pier, an empty familiarity mirroring the days before he came along. Well, crap. Was I too harsh? I shouldn't scold him like a pet. He's too smart for that, but I'm tired of getting food and water in my face. With brows furrowed and a sigh, you returned to the end of the pier and looked down over the edge. The murky water remained undisturbed as you called out gently, Hey, sorry if you're listening. Just stop spitting in my face and we won't have an issue, okay? You're fun to hang out with, even if we can't really talk to each other. No response. Waiting around a few more minutes, you resigned and stood up, running a hand through your hair. I was just joking, by the way. I'll be back tomorrow, and I promise I'll bring a good snack. You weren't sure why, but the thought that he might not return brought a chill to your chest as you walked away towards your apartment. You missed this discerning red eye following from a distance before disappearing under the gentle shift of the ocean current. On your way back to the beach the next day, you stopped by a fish market to grab some fresh fish. No rice or frills this time, just meat. It was more expensive than what you normally bought, but hopefully a peace offering of something a bit nicer might pacify him a bit. However, you stopped short in the pier. Today, you weren't alone. A couple of dark silhouettes contrasted sharply against the orange of the sky at the edge of the pier. Creeping closer, hoping not to draw too much attention to yourself, you set down your package of fish and sat down on the far side far away from the end where the two strangers conversed. The creak of the wood under your weight made a head turn in your direction, though it turned back around after a second, continuing on a loud conversation with his companion. Well, he probably won't show up now, you whispered under your breath. Until now, the merman only came around when you were alone. No one else in close proximity of the pier to disturb vocabulary lessons and snack time. Something touched your foot. Glancing off to the side at the talking strangers to see if they were watching, you looked down to see a familiar webbed hand retreating from your ankle. The rest of him hidden below the underwater. The rest of him hidden below the water under the pier. After a second, blonde hair emerged, crimson eyes fixed at the end of the wooden walkway with an obvious scowl. It seemed like you didn't scare him off yesterday, though the reunion was disrupted by a pair of loud fishermen who seemed perfectly settled in their spots. This could quickly turn into a bad situation, you realized. As far as you were aware, the only person who knew the merman revealed himself was you. If anyone else saw him, search parties and dive teams would have swarmed the area by now, or at least a news story on a slow night of local reporting would have surfaced. You had no way of controlling what he did, though it seemed he was wary enough of most humans to keep his distance, which made you wonder why he revealed himself to you in the first place. The familiar claw touched your foot again, silent and undetectable except to you. Your eyes shifted to look down, but a stranger's voice across the way snapped your head in the stranger's direction. Hey, you got any bait over there? I'm so sorry for my poor accent. Please don't bully me. Grunted this distinctly gruff voice of an old man. You shook your head. No, sorry. The raw fish was hidden from view on the opposite side of the fisherman. Without a reply, he turned back around, satisfied with your answer. If they were nearly out of bait, then they might leave soon. 15 minutes went by with no change in company on the pier. Every glance down into the water proved adjustment in the merman as well. Eyes glued to the men on the pier, motionless aside from the bright blonde hair drifting in the dark teal water below. Finally, an idea formed in your head. It was a huge gamble, and probably stupid, but it seemed like the rascally nature of the merman wore off on you. Carefully, you unwrapped part of the package of fish, the strong scent of unrefrigerated meat filling your nose. You tilted the package over the edge of the pier, the fin-like ears of the merman perking up at the crinkle of paper, noise in the air, and eyes wide as he recognized the meal. You put a finger to his mouth, signaling for him to keep quiet. He nodded. Hey, you guys! You called out. The two fishermen stalling their conversation to look over at you. I actually do have some bait for you, if you want it. I've lost track of time out here, so now it's no good to eat. You can have the fish if you want. Rewrapping the package, you pulled your feet up from the pier and walked over to the men. One looked skeptical, the other more eager. You really don't want it? We'll pay you for it. Maybe we'll catch something big today with some half-decent bait, huh? The excited man said, elbowing his dubious partner on the arm. What's the catch? You shook your head, handing them the package. No catch. Well, not for me. You might catch something interesting, though. Before they could argue, you set the package down and made your way back to your original spot farther down the pier. Looking nonchalantly down in the water, a pair of incredulous eyes stared at you, fanged mouth gaping as he watched you give away his fish to those other humans. The absolute nerve! You winked, tilting your head in their direction. You both watched as one of the fishermen hooked a large piece of fish onto the pathetically small hook and cast his line out, the bait plopping into the water like a small brick. Turning his angry eyes back towards you, he watched as you mimed a gesture subtly with your hands, hidden from the view of the two men. It only took a second for him to register what you meant, a devious smirk appearing on his face before diving under the water, undetected and unnoticed to everyone but you. However, the idea you had in mind was turned upside down as a live fish came flying out of the water, hitting the man holding the baited pole right in the face with a deafening slap, causing him to drop his fishing pole from shock. Your hands flew to your mouth, tears gathering up in the corners of your eye, trying to hold back the laughter. Rather than simply steal the fish from the hook, the merman took it 10 steps further and interpreted your flicking motion as toss food at his face. Well, the plan seemed to work as you watched the struggling fisherman fling the fish back into the water with a yell as he watched his fishing pole promptly sink back into the darkening water, pulled downward by an unseen force. What the heck was that? What happened? Yelled the other fisherman, mouth agape at this spectacle. Frickin' heck, I don't know. Some dang fish came flying out of nowhere. Now my dang pole's gone. Kieko's gonna kill me anyways for staying out so late. Crap. This was a terrible fishing spot anyway. Come on, let's go. The angry one exclaimed, snatching up a tackle box and marching his way down to the pier, his friend quickly gathering up his own items and following behind. He didn't bother grabbing the leftover raw fish sitting on the edge of the pier. Gathering yourself up to keep from laughing, he watched the two men hop off in a battered-looking car and drive off. Once you were sure you were finally alone, laughter spilled out of your mouth, feet kicking above the water. Holy crap, you threw a fish at them, but you deviant? That's not what I meant at all, but I guess it worked. After a minute, your laughter died down. Swinging your legs up onto the pier and walking over to your normal spot, you sat down next to the open wrapper of fish, a smile lighting up on your face in the dim light left over from the waning sunset. Waning. Wah. Okay, anyways, after a minute, blonde hair broke the surface of the water, a satisfactory smirk on his face at getting the intruders finally to leave. Well, I guess your expertise in hitting faces paid off. Grabbing up the remaining pieces of fish, you held it out as the merman licked his lips below you. He easily caught the piece in his mouth as you tossed it down, wiping your hand on your pants, the fishy residue. It wasn't long before the meal was gone, the merman wasting no time on the treat. When red eyes met yours, it only took a moment for you to sputter about, another round of laughter bellowing from your chest at the antics. He mirrored your laugh happily, orange and goldfish tail slapping against the water. However, he abruptly stopped and dove underwater, disappearing in a flash. Hey! You looked around quickly to see if any other intruders were around, but you were still alone on the pier, so why did he... Leaning back with surprise, you weren't used to sudden airborne entrances. You watched as he hooked himself onto the side of the pier with his strong arms before pulling himself up to actually sit next to you for the first time. The discarded fishing pole lay in his webbed hands, empty of bait, fishing line tangled in a knot. With what looked like surprisingly little effort, he snapped the rod in half and dropped it behind him, the echo of plastic and metal vibrating gently against the old wood of the pier. Swallowing hard, you tried not to stare, but it was difficult. This was the closest you'd ever been to him on equal footing, and hiding under the water did him little justice. The human-like part of him was ripped, the lean muscles of a strong swimmer running from his neck down to his torso, where he transitioned into glittering scales of orange, black, and gold. Though the light around you was dim, the moonlight from the sky echoed off him like a shimmering ghost. How someone could encapsulate the warmth of the sun and beauty of the moon all at once was something you couldn't even begin to comprehend at the moment as he turned his head towards you, crimson eyes gazing into your very soul, taking your breath away. He was glorious. You were about to turn your head away from embarrassment, but something else caught your eye. His tail. It was the first time seeing it up close out of water. Its scars ran up from his fins nearly to his waist. His red eyes followed your gaze, and seeing where you were looking, growled low and made like he was about to jump back into the water. Wait, sorry, I didn't mean to stare, you mumbled out, putting up your hands defensively. He paused his movements, waiting for you to say anything else. I guess that explains why you don't want anyone touching it. Did humans, you said, pointing to yourself, do that? Then, blah, blah. Pointing then to his tail littered with marks, long, short, thin, and wide. He looked away with a sneer, but shook his head in a definite no. He noticed his clawed hands gripping tightly to the edge of the waterlogged wood, knuckles straining and muscles tense. As much as you wanted to comfort him, you thought it was a bad idea to try to touch him at this point. He let you see him completely unhindered by illusions of seawater. It would be foolish to push closer contact unless he instigated it. Sorry, you don't have to tell me where they came from. It's not my business. Scars, both emotional and physical, were always the most difficult to reveal to someone, riddled with pain, with painful memories or stories of loss. It wasn't your place to meddle, no matter how strong your curiosity. It's very pretty, though. Your tail, I mean. Scars and all. Turning his head slightly to look back at you, his expression was unreadable as he lifted his tail slightly off the pier, giving you a better view. You'd seen in artist renderings of mermaids online and in storybooks on more than one occasion. You'd seen on top of regular human legs. Real person tails didn't appear to work like that. However, though strong and sturdy, there was no bend in the middle, only a perfect curve of scales and fins reflecting against the moonlight. The silence stretched on between the two of you, unsure what to do or say at this point. Surprisingly, the merman was the one to break the awkwardness. Thank for fish, he muttered out, turning away from you once again. It was one of the few complete sentences he's spoken, proving that your teaching wasn't completely in vain. Your face lit up at a simple word. Oh, you're welcome. I felt bad about yesterday, but please just don't flick food in my face anymore. Deal? Deal, he said in response. Hopefully he meant it. Maybe tossing that fish into the guy's face got it all out of your system, It really was funny, though. As long as it's not me, keep tossing fish. Just don't get caught. He snickered at your words, apparently confident in his ability to stay hidden. No other human knew he was there. He knew he existed. A secret kept in present company, while you stared at the reflection of the moon across the horizon of the ocean that met the sky seamlessly as he stared at you, and only you. Okay, this is part 2 of the series, chapters 4 through 6. Hopefully you enjoyed. I promise I'll get, the third part out tomorrow. Right now I'm very tired. I've lost so many brain cells recording this. But, yeah, anyways. Yeah. You guys can keep bugging me no matter how much you want about this series or Zuko series. Although I've seen no one else just kind of be like, hey, where's part 6? I'll do a part 6 as soon as I think of it. Or I just might fast forward it because my lazy butt is stupid. Anyways, this video was kind of longer than I intended it to be, but it was pretty fun to record, not gonna lie. I think it was long because of my stuttering and my incapability to speak. Yeah, so yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like or dislike, doesn't really matter, but I'd prefer if you like it. Comment something if you want. Maybe subscribe. Anyways, see y'all. Have a nice day, night, whatever, wherever you are. See ya. Yep, and also enjoy the rest of this music.